Hello. We're really glad that you found us.
We are a church family, made up of all sorts of people.
From different backgrounds, who loves Jesus.
Our desire is for people to know Jesus.
To know that they are loved by him.
And to be part of a family who do life together.
With Jesus at the centre.
We meet up every Sunday to worship.
And be family together.
All seeking to demonstrate Jesus' love to others through being
rooted in Christ and growing in love.
Yes, everything for you.
Whether you're familiar with church or not,
you are very welcome at One Christian Centre.
As we celebrate together,
we hope you engage with us.
As we make Jesus known.
Everything for you.
Hello everyone. We love this church. We haven't been here that long, but already we feel very at home. There we go. Easy to please as well, so that's good. We felt very, very welcome from the minute we stepped through the door. I think one of the things that attracted me to this church, what I love about it, is the realness. You've just displayed that with sharing your story and part of your journey today. I think it's so important that we share in each other's struggles. We're real with each other. We don't just kind of put a gloss on things like, my walk with faith is I'm just next to God all day, every day, because if I heard that from the front, that wouldn't look like what my faith journey looks like. And I would feel inadequate, like when I start to compare myself. But that, I'm starting to get into the preach already, and I don't want to do that just yet. Because I firstly just want to explain a little bit about who I am. I've managed to chat to most of you, I think, but a little bit about my background. First of all, I was originally a youth and community worker. So for 12, I think it was 12 in the end, years, I managed to last on that job. I worked with, teenagers, and we just connected with them through any means we could, because how many of us know that the church is not too good often at reaching out to young people, to connecting with them. We expect them to come in on our terms without meeting them where they are. So a lot of my role was, hey, let's meet kids where they are, whether it's by creating sports teams, gaming nights, like whatever people were into, we would put on, and we would just meet people and not immediately ram the gospel down their throat, because that's not how you do it. It needs to be about a relationship. It needs to be about building trust. You need to earn their respect before you have a right to speak into their life. Too often we want to go straight in with the Jesus stuff without showing Jesus' love first. Anyway, after I did that, I was feeling for quite a long time, I'm quite a creative person, and I was feeling a real tug to do something different. For a long time, I'd used media as part of my youth work, because again, the young people connected with videos and stuff like that, so that's what I would do. And more I started to get work in that area where friends and small businesses in the local area were starting to say, hey, we saw that video, could you do something similar for us? And I was doing that on the side a bit, just extra bit of dosh, always useful. And until more and more I felt the tug of, okay, it's time now to step out and try something new. And that's always a hard thing to do, but especially when you're not unhappy in the place you already are. Like, I was enjoying my job, I felt I was being used in my job, So it wasn't an easy decision, but that feeling wouldn't go away, and I felt like I had to pursue it. So I stepped out, and I tried to do it in a sensible way. So I went down to half-time with my youth work, and then half-time I was building up this business of mine. And again, that was just testing the water, really. And in that year, more and more inquiries were coming for work and stuff like that with this video side of things, to the point where it's like, okay, got to go all in now. So I went all in, and then COVID hit. Isn't that always the way? We think we know where things are going, and then curveball comes. And suddenly, all of this work that I had lined up, I had this awful week where every client that I had lined up messaged me, sorry, we can't have you on site to film, or the job's cancelled, essentially. Now, I'm in a moment of confusion, doubt. Did God, maybe I made the wrong decision. Maybe God wanted me to stay in youth work, and you start second guessing everything, right? But it gets worse, actually, before it gets better. So basically, then I was like, okay, well, I got no money coming in, but friends of mine who were in a bit more of the know said, don't worry, like there's a package coming, financial support package. If you're self-employed, you'll get helped out. So I was like, oh, thank God for that. I need it. And then guess what? Because I was a newly formed full-time business, I didn't have the right accounts and stuff to receive that financial support. So then I'm even more panicking. What's happening? I call it a fog drop moment. We all have them in our lives where you think you've got clarity, and then suddenly something else happened. But then the story picks up, and thankfully everyone then realized, video is really important for connecting with people, and if you're a business you still need clients, but you can't go and meet them in COVID, so what do? We make videos. So suddenly my confusion and my panic turned to, whoa, I've actually got loads on. And so that's all complete side note, but that's just a little introduction to the things I've done, and it actually does link a bit, because it shows life is not linear, and it doesn't start like your Christian faith doesn't start, right, I'm here, and I get to know God more and more and more, and I feel more and more blessings on my life, and this line just goes up. Does your Christian life look like that? Mine is like pyramids, man. I've got moments where I feel God is so close, so active in my life. I can hear his voice. I can feel his hand on me, guiding me. And then there are moments where I feel he's stepped away completely. He's looking in a different direction. That's being real. That's how I have felt in my walk with God. But the danger, I think, is that often we think about Bible characters and we almost treat them like they're superhuman. So we think about them and we think, well, those guys did amazing things. They must have just had daily mountaintop moments where they heard from God, saw him active. But hey, I'm really, really grateful that the Bible is real and authentic, because it actually includes those fog drop moments too. It includes the times when they mess up or they feel God is silent. David, a whole load of Psalms about being angry, crying out, "Where are you?" Doesn't get much realer than that. And that's why I love the Bible, because that is relatable. In my job as a guy who makes videos, one of the things that's super important is something called a show reel. So a show reel, if you aren't aware, is basically like a 1 or 2 minute video clip where you show your best bits. Like, this is the thing you put up there and get people to watch to attract in new clients. So your show reel has got to be amazing. But again, as I say, I think often we can look at the Bible characters, see their show reels, and forget that actually they had low moments. They had times where they felt God was distant. So I've been waffling so much, I haven't even done the PowerPoint yet. Apologies, so I'm going to move that up. And also, Gary told me not to move too much, so I'm just going to do that to wind Gary up a little bit. There we go. Okay. So if the tech works, here we go. I want to talk about 3 things. If you take notes, I'm a visual learner. I learn by seeing stuff, hence why we've got some things here we're going to look at, hence why we've got very simple, I'm simple as well, so very simple icons here, so you can follow along, you can know, okay, this is where we're going. And maybe today, all of these points will speak to you. Maybe only one, hopefully at least one will speak to you, and God will use what I'm saying here. But it's an open week, a free week. I haven't been given a theme, which, for, again, someone like me who's creative is a bit dangerous because I can sort of go all over the place. And this message is a bit like that, but there are some threads that weave through and link. A lot of the threads are around God in the ordinary. And we're going to go to these 3 places: calculators, camera lenses, and camel tending. Okay? So that's where we're going, and I aim to be fairly quick. I know this first part's been me waffling a bit, but hey, we're just getting to know each other, and I haven't done this for a while, so I'm getting back into the swing of things a little bit. But those are the 3 places that we're going to go today. And you know, I said about, hey, we can't just put the Bible characters, we can't just think about them as show reel, like all the best bits. One of the characters that I thought about over the last couple of weeks was Abraham, known as father of the faith. And surely a guy like that, his life is just going to be daily mountaintop moments where God spoke and he heard from him day by day by day. But I did a little bit of digging around in the Bible, and I feel like, now there may be a biblical scholar who corrects me in a number is a tiny bit wrong here, but from what I've seen and Googled, there are 11 recorded moments in the Bible, 11, where God directly interacts with Abraham. Okay, why is that number interesting? And this is the calculator bit, so I better ping this along. There we go. 11 times God directly interacts with Abraham. How old was Abraham? Open question. Who's going to get the bonus prize today? How old was Abraham? Older than you, definitely. 175. Okay? So, I wanted visually, right, to bring this. This is really old. This is from when the kids were really little, and unfortunately, it doesn't even really work. So it's just going to have to be a visual and not an actual useful calculator today. So I'll get my phone instead. And when I put those numbers in, 175. That's the years that Abraham lived, divided by 11, which was what? Yes, thank you. The times that God directly intervened, interacted, spoke with Abraham. 175 divided by 11. Maybe you're really clever and you don't need a calculator for that. I did. Let's have a look. 15.9. 15.9. Let's round it up. 16. Fair enough, yeah? 16. So what does this number mean? What we're saying here, basically once, if we average it out, once every 16 years, God and Abraham interacted. That blew my mind a bit, because so often we don't dig too deeply into it and find those little details. I just assumed the show reel stuff. Abraham must have constantly heard from God. But if we go by this kind of average sum that we've just done, There were years when God and Abraham didn't speak, or God didn't hear audibly from God. Abraham didn't hear audibly from God. There were gaps. There was times of silence. And this comforted me. Because as I began to touch on earlier in the intro there are times in my walk with God where I feel he's gone quiet. There are gaps. There are doubts that creep in. And I know sometimes we don't always say this from the stage, but it's so important. We have to be real and honest. There are times when doubts creep in. Did God really say that? Is he really with me in this situation? We ask those questions. And I think that's okay. I think God is big enough to deal with our honest questions. In fact, I think he encourages that. He doesn't want us to fake it. If it's what you're feeling in the moment, speak with him. He's interested in how you're feeling and where you are at. There are other examples I could give, but I want to be quite quick today, so I'm not going to go more into that point on the calculators. But know this, that in those mountaintop moments, and hopefully we have those as well, God is working. In the valleys, in the times where it feels like he stepped back, God is working. Let's move to this second point. Camera lenses, something that I now know quite a lot about as I do this as a job, like I shared with you guys. But with camera lenses, you got your camera. This is a small little one I've brought along. This is the lens. This is 101, very basics right now. You probably already know this, but this is the lens. I have on here right now a wide lens. So what does that mean? It means that if I turn this camera on, you look beautiful, guys. If I turn this camera on, I can see just about every one of you, even all the way over here, all the way over here. This camera is a wide lens. I can see you all. But hey, I've got other lenses. I brought this beast along. This is a zoom lens. So if I really wanted to, I could zoom straight in on Dave's face. And I have options with lenses. Which one I select massively impacts what I see. Okay, with me? Great. I want to go, you don't need to turn there. So, some of these verses will spend longer on. This one I just want to fleetingly read to you because it's just one verse, but this is from Exodus. It's 20, if you're keeping notes, you might want to know it, so I'll say it anyway. Exodus 24, verse 12. I'm reading it in the King James Version because I want to use my zoom lens and zoom in on pretty much 3 words from one verse. Because sometimes we can do the wide lens, sometimes we can get a lot just from zooming in on one verse or one small section. This is when God is speaking with Moses. And he wants him to go up to the mountain so he can speak with him and give him the 10 Commandments, essentially. Let's look at what this verse says. And verse 12, and the Lord said unto Moses, come up to me into the mount. Here's the 3 words. And be there. Interesting. So hang on a minute. In that sentence, hasn't he just said the same thing to him twice? Go up to the mount and be there. What's going on in this verse? Well, I think a really interesting way of reading this, and hopefully we can relate to this, is that sometimes we can be somewhere physically, but we're not really there. Maybe our attention's all over the place. We're thinking about the week we've got coming up ahead of us, or the things that have gone the week before. And we're not truly present. Dare I say, sometimes we even do this on Sunday in church. We might be here, but not truly be here, tuned in, listening to what God wants to say. Go up to the mountain and be there. We can miss moments. We can miss moments. Maybe, going back to this lens example, maybe I'm so zoomed in over here that something's happening over here. Of course, I'm not going to see it. My lens selection was wrong. My awareness of what was happening. Maybe I'm pointing things in the wrong direction. Why am I talking about this? Well, I believe God is so active. I believe God is so active. But often it's our focus, or the lens that we're choosing to use, we miss it. Simple example for me. The other day, I was walking on a dog walk with Asher, my youngest boy. And I didn't really want to go on that dog walk. So my focus is head down, a bit grumpy. Let's get on with this. Do the tick off that and get on to the next thing. That's where my focus, my attention was, right? Then, I don't know what it was, but suddenly my lens changed. Something caught my eye as I was walking. And it sounds so hippie-ish and stupid, but it was a real moment for me. I saw a cobweb with dew on it. And I appreciated the beauty. I'd missed it to start with because my focus was elsewhere. I was being grumpy, I was inward. I looked up and I zoomed in with the lens. I saw something of creation, of beauty, of God's handiwork. And it moved me. And do you know what? The rest of that walk was worship. Suddenly, and I'm not in church singing a song, I'm walking the dog with my son, but I'm worshiping God in my mind because I'm beginning to focus on things and say, God, I see that. That's amazing. Thank you. For me, that was where worship was rising up. And I know many of you, as I've spoken to you, have felt God so much when you get out into nature and see that. Some of you, that doesn't tick that box. We're all built differently. But we need to start thinking about what lens we have on. Is my lens in selfie mode? Can't do it like a phone, but like with the camera here. Sometimes, dare I say with me, often, I'm pointing it at myself as in I'm thinking of my own problems, my own struggles. That there's a role for that. That's important. But if we hold it there for too long, we'll miss moments. We'll miss the cobwebs. We'll miss each other, what God is doing. So let's quickly go on to another verse. It's Genesis. We'll look a little bit longer at this. Genesis 28, verse 10 to start with. Genesis 28, verse 10. Jacob's dream at Bethel. Again, sometimes in preachers, you'll look at what came before, what comes after, but because this is I'm touching upon several things, we're not going to spend too much time looking at the background, but please just take this story for what it is. There's something deep in here that links with all that's gone before. Jacob left Beersheba and set out for Haran. When he reached a certain place, that's important, we'll come back to it, he stopped for the night because the sun had set. Taking one of the stones there, he put it under his head and lay down to sleep. He had a dream in which he saw a stairway resting on the earth with its top reaching to heaven, and the angels of God were ascending and descending on it. There above it stood the Lord, and he said, I am the Lord, the God of your father Abraham and the God of Isaac. I will give you and your descendants the land on which you are lying. Your descendants will be like dust on the earth, and you will spread out to the west and to the east, to the north and to the south. All the peoples on earth will be blessed through you and your offspring. I am with you, and I will watch over you wherever you go. I will bring you back to this land. I will not leave you until I have done what I have promised you. There's a lot in there, but let's go to this last section here, 16 now. When Jacob awoke from his sleep, he thought, surely the Lord is in this place, and I was not aware of it. That line spoke to me the most, and has done for a long time, because it goes back to this idea that God can be here all along. It's our awareness that changes. It's our focus that can be off. God, I just pray right now, in this moment, that you realign our focus again. Help us be aware of you. Be aware of all you are doing, God. Verse 18, early the next morning, Jacob took the stone he'd placed under his head and set it up as a pillar and poured oil on top of it. He called that place Bethel, though the city used to be called Luz. Okay, man, there's a lot there. Do you notice at the beginning it says Jacob arrived at a certain place? It was just a random spot. But then towards the end of that story, it's called a special place. Again, just emphasizing, the focus has shifted. The environment hasn't changed physically. The awareness has. We've got the shift there. The stone was an interesting one. We could spend ages on this. Don't worry, guys, we're not going to. But the stone's a real interesting one. It starts off as a pillow. He sleeps on it. And then it ends as a pillar that he wants to remember this place. It's special to him. So from sleeping place to a special place. There are all these shifts that are going on in this passage. But yeah, if you want to take anything from that section, that idea that God was in this place, but I was not aware of it. Sometimes our focus is wrong. Let me move to the final thing really quickly. Again, if this is a bit scatter, I'm sorry. A lot of this changed on Saturday at about 4 a.m. Sue knows because I sent her one PowerPoint and then I sent her another one on Saturday because I just woke up and I had I don't know. I don't want to say God spoke to me, but I felt these ideas coming. And in my interpretation, this is God dropping things into my heart. And it's why I want to share it with you. Camel tending, which again sounds very random, but there's a serious point to it. And amazingly, we just found this wooden camel at the back today. I didn't have a camel prop. We were searching the house, we didn't have one. And then boom, I know Elijah wanted to take it. You can take it now if you want, Elijah. But we had a camel prop as well. Again, these visuals, I just find them useful. Hopefully you do as well. How many of us here can feel like we don't have much to offer? Or the part that we play doesn't make a difference? I think we can relate to that. But yet, what's really interesting, this is the zoom lens, the wide lens now, seeing the whole perspective of the Bible. What is a reoccurring theme? Ordinary people offering up what they have. And God does extraordinary things through that act. Ordinary people offering up what they have. And God does incredible things through it. It's the story time and time again. The boy that offered his packed lunch and it fed thousands. Because God took that offering, that heart offering. I don't have much. And he could have said, this is an embarrassing thing to even offer up because it's so insignificant. But his act fed thousands that day through what God did through it, right? There are so many examples. The woman who drops her offering into the temple's offering box, for want of a better word. Some people laughed. It was an insignificant amount for them. But God saw the heart. He saw what she was offering. She didn't withhold because she felt, oh, this isn't much. And I think the danger in church, in community life, in family life, all of it really is that so often we're maybe feeling, we discount ourselves, we count ourselves out. This isn't helpful, so I'm not even going to suggest it. Or I'm not even going to put myself forward. But time and time in the Bible, and also time and time again in my life, when people have put themselves out there, given what they have to me, an act of kindness, straight away in my mind I'm thinking of when we hadn't been here long at church and my dad died, and you guys didn't even really know me at that point, but you dropped meals to me and family, like, it meant so much. Sorry. So, please don't discount yourself or think what I'm giving isn't going to make a difference, because God takes what we give and he does abundantly more than we can ask or imagine with it. I haven't even touched upon the camel yet, so I better get there, otherwise you're going to think, why was that there? So let's, there's lots of places I want to go. Let's go to the camel bit. 1 Corinthians 27. This whole chapter is a list. And sometimes in the Bible we can really just skip through these lists. What do they mean? There's crazy names in them. It doesn't feel that relevant. But even in these lists, sometimes there's a bit of gold that you can dig out of there and find relevance for today. And I found that this list kind of links in with exactly that point that I was just saying with you, that everyone does have a part to play. Don't count yourself out. I'm not going to attempt to read some of these names, but I will read some of the lists of things that people did. This is to help King David at the time. Some guy, verse 25. There was 1 Chronicles 27. Again, this. You don't necessarily need to follow along. I'll skip around a bit. But 1 Chronicles 27, we start at verse 25. There's a guy here. This is why I'm not going to attempt the name, I'm sorry. But he was in charge of the royal storehouses. Someone else here in charge. You get the point. There's a whole list of people who worked in this kingdom, who offered what they had. And we get down to verse 29. There's a guy in charge of the herds grazing. And then 30 here is my friend Obil, who was in charge of the camels. And even next to him is another guy. He's in charge of the donkeys. And again, I love that all of this is written in the Bible, because each job is significant. Each job is significant. So linking back to what I said, when you offer what you have, God can do so much with it. Don't say, I don't have a lot to give. If you can cook a casserole, you can touch a community. Yeah? And my personal story there showed that, like, practical support made a huge difference for me. If you listen well, that's a huge gift. Don't talk yourself down. Offer what you have. There are so many of us out there who just need to be heard and listened to. If that's your gift, don't withhold it. I could go on and on about all of those different gifts, but you get the principle, right? Can I get the band up, please? I want to just really quickly recap, then I want us to respond. I want us to, have some moments with God. We talked, hang on a sec. So real quick 2-minute recap. If you haven't listened to anything I've said, please just listen to this recap, and even that God can work through, right? The calculator. That reminds us of Abraham, right? The sum that I did there. That he experienced moments of silence, gaps, doubts. Maybe that's where you are now, as you sat here today. Feel like distant from God. I've not heard his voice for a while. And that happens to all of us. But then let's look at the second point, the camera lens. It reminds us about focus, perspective, lenses, where we're looking. Maybe sometimes that's what we need to go and do. And when I say go and do it, I think being in different physical places can help. I'm not very good at practically doing this, but it's really important. And the few times that I've taken time to do it has helped me. Just get out somewhere completely different with no to-do list at all. And get that focus shifting. I think when we do that, God is desperate to speak with us. And he's got a word for you. He's got things that he wants us to get involved with, because it's not a spectator sport, right? He needs us, he wants us, he allows us to play a part in his big story. And then finally, the camel tending, that we all have a role to play. And it's so easy to count yourself out. I don't have what it takes. How many times has that been said in the Bible by characters? Think of Moses straight away. I don't have what it takes. None of us do. None of us do in our own strength. But God takes what we give and makes extraordinary things happen. Thank you, Father. Yeah, you guys, can you just start playing? I just want to pray for this church now. Some specific people. Father, I think firstly of the people who maybe that word about playing their part, the camel tending, maybe that spoke to them. Give them courage to offer what they have. Give them faith to know that you will do more than we can ask or imagine. It might feel like we don't have much, but with you, we have more than we need. We have a world out there, friends, family, who need your light to shine on them, to break into their worlds. And God wants to use us to make that happen. Our offerings. So give us all, God, the courage once again to step out and give what we have. I also want to make a side point there, because I think it's really important. This isn't a guilt trip. I know some churches, thankfully not this one, have a whole emphasis, sign up to this rota, do this, and we can get overwhelmed. That's not what I'm saying here at all. And thankfully, this church isn't like that. So if you feel like I have been personally in a period in my life where I didn't want to get too stuck in, that sometimes that's also okay. That's the right thing to do. Don't feel this is a message saying you should be doing loads. It's not, but it is saying, hey, don't discount the little things, the words of encouragement, the acts of kindness. Jesus, you work through all of it. And let's just think about that shifting of perspective one more time. And God, so often we get things wrong. We make it about our problems, our mess, and forget to glorify you. Forget that you are the constant in our ups, in our downs, in our mountaintop moments, in the valleys, in the times, in the gaps, the times when it feels like you're quiet. You're constant. We thank you. We thank you. We praise you that you are always there. Awaken us again, Lord, this morning to that reality. And in this moment of worship now, realign yourself again. You can bring your problems before God, and that's okay. But there are also times, regardless of how you feel, you surrender to the higher truth that He is holy and worthy of praise. We thank you, God. We praise you. So let's all sing together now as the musicians lead us with all of these things in mind. Amen.